Summary of the Tale of Genji by Shikibu Murasaki. A lady who is known as the Lady of the Paulownia court is more favored by the emperor than the concubines, which makes the concubines feel upset. They torture her continually because they consider her to be arrogant. The woman suffers from a serious illness as a result of this, but she is able to give birth to a son named Genji not long after. The lady died when the child is 3 years old. Genji is even more beautiful than the Crown Prince Suzaku, his older half-brother. This makes Kokoden, Suzaku's mother, very scared. Because of her constant complaints, the emperor chooses to make Genji a commoner rather than a crown prince. The emperor is still sad about the Lady of the Paulownia court. He hears about a young woman named Fujitsubo who looks a lot like his dead lover and calls her to court. Fujitsubo is almost more perfect than the Paulownia lady, and Genji starts to love her because they look so much alike. So that Genji doesn't marry Suzaku's daughter, Aoi, when he turns 18, his father makes plans for him to marry her instead. And Kokoden and the Minister of the Right are mad about this. Genji is also unhappy in his marriage. One night, Genji sees a house with white flowers on it. He learns that this kind of house is called Evening Faces. A cute young girl gives Genji's servant a flower-shaped fan that smells good. After a while, Genji becomes interested in the fan because of the poem written on it. He starts writing to the Lady of the Evening Faces and doesn't spend much time with Aoi, which makes her mad. He also stops paying attention to the Rokujo lady, another woman he loves. He finds out that the Lady of the Evening Faces used to be in love with his brother-in-law, Tano Chujo. Genji starts to visit the woman while hiding his identity and doesn't tell her who he is. In the fall, he gives in and takes her to a house that is empty for the night. Near midnight, Genji sees the ghost of a woman next to his pillow. The Lady of the Evening Faces is already dead when he wakes up. Genji starts to get malaria in the spring, so he goes to the mountains to see a famous wise man. There is a house near the sage's cave where a bishop lives with a group of women and children. Genji and his personal servant Koromitsu go to the house in the evening to spy on it. Inside, he sees Murasaki, a beautiful 10-year-old girl who looks a lot like Fujitsubo. Genji starts to think of ways to get the child, but the priest tells him that Murasaki is Prince Hyobu's daughter and won't let him have her. Murasaka's grandma is a nun, and she also won't let it happen. Genji goes back to the city against his will and sees Aoi, but he thinks about Murasaki most of the time. When Fujitsubo gets sick, she goes to be with her family. Fujitsubo doesn't want to have sex with Genji, but he goes to see her anyway. It's clear that she's pregnant after 3 months. Fujitsubo is scared that the emperor will find out who the child's father is. Genji worries too, but he's also fighting over who gets to keep Murasaki. Genji finally just takes Murasaki and puts her up in the house. Murasaki soon forgets she's been taken because he gives her so many things. In February, Fujitsubo finally gives birth to Reizei. Once the child gets to court, Genji is scared to see that he looks just like him. Spending time with Murasaki takes his mind off of Aoi, so he continues to ignore her. During the summer, Fujitsubo is made queen, which makes Genji sad because he knows he can no longer reach her. In the spring, Genji goes to a number of shows and other events. He finds an open door at a party and has sex with Aburozukyo, one of Kokoden's sisters, but at the time he doesn't know this. After a short time, the Minister of the Right throws a big party. It is up to Genji to figure out which of his children he slept with. He does this and finds Aburozukyo. At this point, the emperor gives Suzaku the chair and asks Genji to watch over Reizei. The Rokujo lady thinks that Genji doesn't have much time for her now that the government has changed. This makes her decide to go with her young daughter Akakanamu to her job as High Priestess of the Ise Shrine. The Rokujo lady first chooses to go to a show, but while she's there, Aoi and his servants act badly like they don't know her and then damage her carriage. Genji gets mad when he learns about this later, but the Rokujo lady is really upset. Aoi, who is pregnant, gets really sick and is taken over by a bad spirit. He spends some time with his wife and some time with the Rokujo lady, who is afraid that her spirit is what is controlling Aoi. Aoi gives birth early and stays very sick for a long time. She talks to Genji through her body when he goes up to her. Aoi dies soon after. Genji is alone for a few weeks and then says goodbye to his in-laws. Genji will have to go back to see his son by Aoi, Yujiri, which makes the minister of the left feel better. Genji knows it's time to marry Murasaki after going around the house a few times. Her trust in Genji was broken because she only saw him as a father. Her women, on the other hand, are happy. Genji gives his all to Murasaki, and the Rokujo lady gets sadder and sadder. He comes to see her once, but she already knows she wants to go to ISE. The two of them are going to leave in the summer. The emperor's health gets worse in the fall. His quick death comes after he tells Suzaku to ask Genji for help and take care of Reizei. Fujitsubo doesn't want to live with Kokiden at court now that she is all-powerful, so she goes back home. As time goes on, Aburuzukyo moves up in the house and continues to have love feelings for Genji. Genji tries to go see Fujitsubo and have sex with her again, but she pushes him away. To punish her, Genji stops writing and doesn't pay attention to Reizei. Genji and Fujitsubo finally understand that they need to get along for the sake of their son. Suzaku knows that Genji is seeing Aburuzukyo, but it doesn't bother him. But there is a lot of hostility at court toward Genji and Fujitsubo. Fujitsubo says she's going to become a nun in December to get away from it all. In the fall after that, Aburuzukyo and Genji start seeing each other every night again. Everyone is scared one night by a thunderstorm, and the minister of the right wakes up to find Genji in bed with Aburuzukyo. The two of them are both very angry. Genji gets back in touch with two sisters who were close to his father, Raikiden and the Lady of the Orange Blossoms. Being with them is a nice break from the mess at court that starts when people find out about Genji and Aburuzukyo. Genji goes to see his father's grave, writes Reizei a note, and then runs away to Suma. Genji thinks about taking Murasaki with him the whole time he is away. There are letters between him and all the women in the city, including the Rokujo lady. As soon as Kokiden finds out that Genji is still writing to Suzaku, she stops the letters. Suma gets a short call from Tanochujo, and Yashikio, one of Genji's servants, starts talking to a past governor about the governor's daughter, the Akashi lady. There is a storm in the spring that comes out of nowhere. It lasts for days, and when Genji finds out that the city is also having terrible weather, he decides to spend all of his time praying. Genji has a dream that the emperor tells him to leave Suma. After a few hours, the former governor's boat shows up to tell Genji that he was told by God to sail through the storm. Genji asks the former governor if he can stay with him in Akashi, and the governor says yes. The coast of Akashi is beautiful, and Genji is interested in the Akashi lady behind her back. Her father really wants her to start dating Genji and tells him stories about how good she is at singing to get him interested. The man and the woman start writing to each other. Finally, the governor makes plans for Genji to go to the lady's house. Genji pushes himself on the woman and then tells Murasaki about his affair. He starts writing in journals and sketchbooks and keeps seeing the Akashi lady. Suzaku has been sick since the storm, and he plans to step down and call Genji back to court after the new year. The Akashi lady is upset because she is now pregnant. When they get back to the city, Suzaku gives up his throne, Reizei becomes emperor, and Genji is made a minister. His neglected favorites live in a house that Genji is remodeling. When he hears that the Akashi lady had a daughter, he gets her a good nurse. He writes to his other loves a lot, but he doesn't see them very often. In the fall, Genji goes to the Sumiyoshi shrine on the same day as the Akashi lady, but he doesn't know it because she gets there later. She feels bad about herself when she sees how well thought out his gifts are spread out, so she leaves without seeing him. As soon as Akakanamu and the Rokujo lady get back to the city, the Rokujo lady gets very sick. She tells Genji to take care of her daughter and not make her one of his lovers as she lies dying. Fujitsubo is asked by Genji to offer Akakanamu as a possible bride to Reize. Reize loves the idea because the other options are Prince Hyobu's young daughter or Tano Chujo's daughter, the Kokoden girl. There is a lot of stress because Suzaku loves Akakanamu and doesn't like that Reize wants her. When it becomes clear that Prince Hyobu won't get what he wants, the Kokoden girl and Akakanamu start to compete with each other. Akakanamu is a painter, and Reize loves him because he loves art. Tano Chujo starts giving his daughter drawings. Fujitsubo brings up the idea of an art review contest at one point. The women talk about the art, and it looks like a close race until Genji shows them drawings from his time in Suma and Akashi. Their beauty silences the room, and Akakanamu wins the contest. After this, Genji wants to stay out of public life.
About the author. Murasaki Shikibu was born in Heiankyo, Japan, and she was raised by a well-known scholar of poetry and Chinese classic. At that time, women weren't allowed to learn Chinese, but Murasaki did, and she was very good at it. Also, Murasaki didn't stay with her mother and get married when she was a teenager. Instead, she went with her father when he became governor of Ekisan province and didn't get married until she was 25 years old. Before her husband died 2 years later, she had one daughter. Murasaki started writing the tale of Genji around the time her husband died. She kept writing parts even after she was sent to the court of Empress Shoshi to be a lady-in-waiting. She worked there until at least 1014 and maybe even 1025, no one knows for sure when she died. While she was at court, she taught the Empress Chinese writing in secret, which, according to her diary and the diaries of other women of the time, was seen as very scandalous. As a way to cut down on Arthur Waley's 6-volume version of Genji, Edward Seidensticker began translating Murasaki's work in the 1970s. Seidensticker was an American who learned Japanese during World War II and lived in Japan for many years after the war. His versions of modern Japanese works helped him win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1968. He died in 2007.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.